Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 9 of Lee County Unscripted. We are here with Alicia Shannon from the Children's Advocacy Center in Fort Myers. Alicia, welcome. Thank you for coming on our podcast. We appreciate you taking your time out today to hang out with us. And this is Duck, by the way.
We have two guests
We
today.
have two guests. Yeah. This is Duck. He isn't happy about his wages, so we're going to talk about that later on. But
thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I mean, even more that there's a dog here, so even better.
And you are our first guest in our new space, so we're excited about this. But tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and how you, two things, what you do and how you got into your role.
Sure. What I do, I'm the chief executive officer of the Children's Advocacy Center. And our mission is to provide a safe and nurturing space for children who've been affected by abuse and neglect, where they can share their stories and heal. Basically, if there are any sort of abuse cases that are called into the Department of Children and Families or law enforcement, those are our two main partners. We're going to be the ones that do the forensic interviews, the medical exams, the ones that record those interviews so that they can go to court, testify against the perpetrator. On the flip side, we are there to provide healing, therapeutic services, advocacy support, and resources for the family so they can break down those barriers. We have an entire prevention department, education and outreach. So really many programs in this nonprofit.
So it's not just reactive, you're also proactive in prevention. And that's nice to hear too, because it's really heavy on your heartstrings. But this one is even more when it's children that are in bad situations and, you know, you're there to step in and help out.
Yeah, that's something that we've really been focusing on the last year, especially is number one, prevention. Let's focus on how we prevent child abuse versus putting a Band-Aid on it after it's already happened. And then also, you know, in a world where nonprofit already has high turnover, our agency specifically had a lot of turnover. And when I came in, it was really, let's look at the secondary trauma. That's a real thing. The staff that they hear these stories, they take on the children's burden.
Right.
And then so many of them either legally aren't allowed to talk about it, or, you know, you go home and of course, like my husband doesn't want to hear stories about kids being abused all day. No. So it's like, that's not the dinner table talk that we're having. So it's really just, you're carrying that burden on your shoulders by yourself. And, you know, how do we handle that? So we've been working into providing therapy for our staff, creating like sensory calming rooms for our staff, having a lot more activities, engagement where they can really decompress.
I never even thought about the staff. You always just think about the children, but the people that are serving these children,
It's a lot.
It's a lot to carry. I know like Mike's obviously in law enforcement, my husband too, like they get to come home and kind of talk to us about some of the stuff that they see, but like legally, you saying legally they can't talk about it. Like, well, how do you express this and get it out of you? Because if you bottle it up, it's just going to be extremely bad down the road.
So what are some outlets that you give for some of your staff? Because, I mean, obviously your husband being in prior military, he's been exposed to a lot of things that he doesn't want to talk about, and vice versa for you. Like Kim was saying with law enforcement, like we just don't like to talk about those things. So like, what are some things, because you have an extensive background and understanding how that is, like what are some things that your staff can, like a good outlet for them?
One of the things that I love that we do prior to my coming is we provide a certain amount of hours of free therapy for our staff. That's just one of the benefits that's included in their benefit package. And we really encourage them to use it. We remind them about it frequently. We started doing quarterly outings, just getting them out of the office. I mean, it's kind of an emergency-based nonprofit where we're there all the time, 24/7 if we need to be, but there are days where we just pick and we just close down the office unless there's an emergency, and we go out Topgolf. We do just things to like get your mind off of it. Suncoast Federal Credit Union just sponsored a sensory room for us, and while it is for the clients too, it's also a decompression room for the staff, and we're encouraging them to just go in. It has like the northern lights projected on it. There's a massage chair, a sound egg chair, all these like ambient lights and bubble tubes and things like that to just go in and kind of like take that load off of all the information that you just had.
I saw that you posted that on Facebook. I thought it was a really good idea, really good room.
It's almost done and our staff's really excited.
How long have you been in the not-for-profit world?
I started my first nonprofit, or I didn't start it, but started in my first nonprofit in 2013. I was at the Foundation for Lee County Public Schools. I was director of scholarships. So I was teaching high school for about 10 years prior to that. And I kind of felt teaching just wasn't for me, but I really liked being with students, at-risk students specifically. Yep. I just felt like the day-to-day, the actual teaching wasn't necessarily what I wanted. But once I started learning about I mean, I'm going to go on a tangent, so you have to watch the timer here for me. But
No, you're fine.
I'm very interested in generational cycles, breaking the systems. If you have a standardized test, which our system has standardized testing,
Still
and
has
I
it,
get that you have to have some form of measurement. But, you take my kids who I know, I put them to bed early the night before the test. I gave them a great dinner. I've been telling them I love them and they're going to do great. I have a breakfast with notes waiting for, like all the things. And then you have a kid that maybe their parents are fighting all night, or maybe they were being abused, or maybe they slept on the floor, or maybe they slept in the car, or they haven't had dinner or breakfast. And we're saying, here's the same exact test, perform the same way, and we're going to grade you the same way. And it's like, I just started really thinking about that when I was teaching. I'm like, how are we expecting these kids to be the same when they're not? So I really wanted to get behind that. So that's kind of been my goal ever since then, is like, how can we break those cycles?
And it's not giving the same dynamic. It's like the litmus test. It's just not the same.
How long has the Children's Advocacy Center been in operation here in Lee County?
43 years.
43 years.
Yeah.
And I may be wrong on this stat, but you're the third CEO, right? In 43 years.
Big shoes to fill.
Wow.
Yes. The founder and original CEO, Jill Turner, started it in 1981, before I was born. And she was there for 38 years. And then there was someone before me for 5 years. And then I'm filling in. So it's been very nerve-wracking. But I've met with Jill, the founder, many times. She actually lives like 2 streets over from me. She's been coming in. And she's just a good kind of like a mentor to me, and been very supportive, because we've made a lot of changes, but more just like improvements, getting with the time, modernizing things. A lot of the things have been the same since 1981, and she's just loved seeing the changes. So it's kind of nice knowing like you're taking someone's dream and you're carrying it on.
Cultivating it.
Right.
Yeah. And she's within your 5-mile radius of driving. So there you go. You don't have to leave that.
When she said to where she lived, I was like, perfect, I can see you.
I don't have to go outside my comfort bubble.
Right.
So working with children and in a trauma-related industry, it takes a truly a special person, right? Like, it's not for everybody. What are some things that you require educationally, or from a person that wants to get involved? Like, what would be the easiest? I don't want to say the easiest. What would be some things that you look for someone that wants to get involved?
In a volunteer capacity?
Both, from a staff and a volunteer capacity.
So a lot of our funding comes from the Department of Health. So there are requirements that we cannot change whether we want to or not. For the degrees, they have to have like forensic science degrees or criminal science, social work, things like that. They have to have at least 2 years of experience working with abused children, which is really hard, because how do you get experience working with abused children if you can't work with them? So those are the things that are sometimes frustrating. Also, it's kind of unique. We've been really looking into more of like a criminal science background versus a social work background, because to be honest, a lot of people graduate college and, they're 21, 22 years old, and they want to save the world. I was one of them.
Sure.
Like a million years ago. Well, we can still want to save it. I still want to save it, but you also have to be realistic. And so, when you're fresh out of college, you're bright-eyed and you're excited and you're like, I'm ready to change everything and save all these kids. And it's like, that's where you have to realize, like, you cannot break these systems. They've been happening forever, and we can work on them slowly, but you're not going to, you're going to be burned out. You're going to be working late nights. You're going to hear stories that you didn't know existed, especially if you grew up in, an upper middle class family, depending on your demographic. If you're white, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't even realize these things are happening. And to just be hit with it all of a sudden, that's why we see a lot of turnover. They're like, whoa, I did not realize what I was going to be dealing with. So we've started looking into that criminal science background or prior law enforcement, because they've been, their education is a lot more realistic, even in the books. And, someone told me the other day, I never even saw a picture of like an injury on a child in a social work degree. Like, none of my books.
Oh.
And where if you had like a forensics degree or a criminal degree, then you would probably have seen something like that. So at least it wouldn't be the first time you see it,
Yeah, law enforcement, they have the sex crimes division, and we've had friends that worked in there, and they said they don't, again, high turnover. You don't last long in there, because you eventually go on to have your kids, or you have kids, and it's just, it hits too close to home. And again, there's no outlet for them, just like now you have an outlet for your employees, but like, seeing all that firsthand, nobody teaches you that. Like you just said, that was eye-opening. Like, that's not in a book anywhere. And that sounds like a great place to look for, staff is law enforcement.
And it's kind of like that military background. It's not always the best thing, but you are able to kind of carry the emotions, block it out a little bit, push it down a little bit. And you do need that in a staff to be able to have that and then go home and deal with it versus like it's just a lot. It's a lot of emotional baggage to carry, and you have to have that personality to do that. For a volunteer though, they don't really get as hands-on with the kids. It's a lot more working in the office. The dog is a perfect example. We have
He'll be signing up very soon if he can get his application. He will fill it out.
He's kind of lazy, so I'm really not sure. No, I'm just joking.
He's not. He
No.
He got fired from his last job.
Anybody that has a certified pet therapy dog, they are welcome to come in, and it's great because we are very flexible. You can sign up for the jobs that you want. We're posting every day all of the opportunities. It's not just in our office. We go to the VA clinic, we go to the hospital, we go to Valerie's house, we go to the library. We go all over the county. We're the ones that run the therapy dog program.
Oh, okay.
It's called Beasley's Paw Prints. So you can really pick and choose what you like to do and what your dog likes to do. Like we were talking about, some dogs like crowds, some don't, some like kids, adults. So that's a great way to get involved if you are into that. If you are handy, we're always trying to make improvements. We could use your expertise. And I think it's rewarding to know that you're helping the kids and you get to see that they're enjoying the things that you help build and put together. And then if you do like working with the kids, we have some background screening and fingerprinting that you have to do. But we have a Pine Manor after school program. So if you're familiar with the Pine Manor area, then you know that that demographic is definitely not one where we want the kids left alone. And it has a pretty high crime rate. The graduation rates are very low there. So we've been working on that population a lot to try to get those graduation rates up, just improve the community in general.
Well, I can tell you, like, from a personal experience of being in Pine Manor when it wasn't, when it was very violent at times. And going in there now, or before when I was working in the law enforcement, going in there, it's not the same neighborhood.
No.
And you guys, so not just you, but the other organizations that are affiliated with Pine Manor have done an amazing job of transitioning that neighborhood back to a family oriented. There's a lot of illegal immigrants in there, and that they're afraid of people and afraid of law enforcement and afraid of like asking for help. But you guys have done a really good job of putting a footprint in that community and bringing back that family atmosphere.
Thank you. Yeah, our after school program is there every day after school. Every day during summer break, we're taking the kids on field trips. A lot of those kids don't ever get to go anywhere. We go to Sanibel C School, we go to IMAC, all the places. In the 3 years that our prevention department has been working heavily there, we've been there for over 20 years, but really the last 3 years we've been very heavily focused on that community. And we've had zero DCF involvement with any of the kids that have been in our school. None of the kids have been held back. None of them have had any expulsions from school. So we're definitely making
doing
change.
something right.
That's a huge impact for that community.
Yep.
That is massive. And it's only been 3 years.
The program's been there for about 20 years, but
the prevention.
Yeah, the prevention component where we've just really put, unfortunately, federal dollars gives no money to prevention. They always give money. We get a lot of funding for child protection team after the abuse has already happened. And we're like, hey, let's try to prevent it. And they're like, oh, no, we don't want to focus on that. So that's where we do donations, grant funding, things like that. But yeah, we've started really putting our money into that.
So say someone can't help out, physically or volunteer, how can they donate to your cause?
We will take literally any form of your money that you want. I always say,
do you have a charity coming up or anything? Do you have plans?
We actually, our most recent fundraiser was held here, and it was very successful. But no, we're actually really focusing on
that was a lot of fun. That event.
I was not here, so I want to hear about this.
I got yelled at. No, I didn't get yelled at.
Not by me.
No. So
were you the auctioneer again?
No, I was not the auctioneer, but they were doing a live auction. And I was standing in the back and I was bidding on items, even though I was there as like staff for the event. I was bidding.
And won.
And some people are like, you can't bid. I'm like, why? Money's
green.
money. I don't think Alicia's going to care one way or the other.
My husband was like, I'm going to bid on some of the stuff. I was like, well, don't spend my money, but yeah, go for it. Please.
Right. Bid it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a really good
event. Bid it
event.
up, just don't win.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was our first annual, we call it CAC Reimagined. It's really, like I said, been focusing on prevention versus, for 43 years, and it's not the wrong thing, it's just what we have been doing. We have been really focusing on the abuse and neglect of children. We've gone as far as sharing stories, minor pictures, things like that. And it's just, we've been able to share a very depressing story, and it's very real. It's not changing. We see over 100 kids a month that have been abused or neglected or sexually abused. That's one of 14 programs that we have. The other 13 programs are literally prevention, education, outreach. And when I came in, it was like, well, why are we just, yes, this is very sad and it has a big impact, but like, what about all the cool things that we're doing? So that's why we called it CSE Reimagined. And we focused on childlike wonder. So we had games and toys and pinwheels and color.
So was there children here for the charity? No.
We didn't bring any children, and we probably won't, to be honest.
You don't want to put them on display.
Yeah, I've been at several different agencies. When I was at the Education Foundation, that's different because they're graduating, they're getting scholarships, they're excited to share.
Yeah.
But I was formerly at a group home for teen moms, and it's like, we're not going to put you on display and make you parade around and talk about the things that have happened to you. So I still have that mindset, but the centerpieces were glass vases full of Legos, and just all the tabletops had white paper with crayons, and people were drawing on them.
Oh,
so
that's fun.
we really wanted to focus on the childhood that not every child gets to get.
I know I was really lucky to have a good childhood, and you as well. Like, and our parents, were together, and when you grow up like that, you lose sight of like what really happens to like more children than not.
Yeah.
We take for granted. Like we think that's the norm.
Yeah.
And sadly, that's not the norm. It just puts in retrospect that our parents back then did an amazing job of making sure that was the norm for us. And then we carried that on with our own children.
And they shielded us from anything, made it the white picket fence. I always say that. I was like, I grew up in the white picket fence family, and like, that's all I understood. And then, from a small town to Fort Myers, which was a bigger town for me, I went from 40,000 people, to 250,000. So I was like, oh, there are, bad things that do happen right in front of you. And so that was eye-opening for me. And as I got older and became a parent, you realize how hard of a job parents have trying to protect their kids and shield their kids from everything that goes on out there, especially this day and age. That human trafficking is very prevalent in our area. And my parents weren't aware of that, and my mother-in-law, and I had to educate them about that. Like, when you're in the grocery store, you always keep your hand on the cart, keep an eye on her.
Sad.
And it's sad. They're like, it's so sad that you even have to have this conversation and bring it up.
I know. I think, it's a fine line as a parent of, you want to keep them shielded. You want to put them in a bubble. You want them to have a great experience. But then, I was also very fortunate. I had no idea. People often ask me, how'd you get into this? Did you grow up, when you're growing up? No, honestly, I had a great life, upper middle class, like no clue any of this stuff was happening. I think teaching was what really made me realize. But, I also want my kids to know that it exists. So I've been fortunate enough to have the ability to bring them to work at all of the agencies so that they kind of see. We talked about the Pine Manor community. For Thanksgiving, we serve about 300 people Thanksgiving dinner, and they get in line. And I'm there with my kids. They're literally serving and putting things on plates so they can see. But my poor daughter, I have a teenage daughter, and if anything happens at work, like it's gone home and there's a lesson to be taught. And she mentioned something about the maintenance guy at her office or her school one day, just like, he always says hi to me. I'm like, wait, what? And
how does he say hi?
20 minutes later, she's like, never mind, he doesn't talk to me. But, they have to know. But that's one of the things I love about CAC is we have the education outreach. It's completely free. Everything we offer is free. All of our services are free. We don't take insurance. But if any business wants us to come out and talk about, for adults, signs to look for in kids that have been abused or sexually abused, we have the education. It's like a 3-hour training. And then any kids, we do 0 to 17 training, signs for them. We focus it on safety, like 5 safety rules. Younger kids, it's like your personal bubble, good touches, bad touches, finding your safe person. Older kids, we're delving into internet safety, pictures, everything you put out there stays out there.
So scary.
Bullying. I know. That's, my poor
Especially with AI coming
Yeah.
up, right? Like
AI
being there. Exactly.
Oh my gosh, I know.
You can't tell any longer. Some of the stuff we use AI for, I'm like, that's not me talking.
We just had our whole website redone, and it looks amazing, but it's like little kids holding pinwheels, and they're just I don't even know how you come up with that. It's not real. I'm like, where did these kids come from?
And it's happening
AI.
so quickly.
Yeah.
So
The AI
quickly.
is like warp speed happening.
Yeah.
So Fort Myers, or Lee County in general, like at Southwest Florida, there's a lot of nonprofit organizations. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here for a minute. This is part of the Unscripted.
That's great. Put me on the spot.
What are three nonprofit organizations that you know of that have, not that they don't all have a great background or a great reason for existing, but what are three here that don't get the attention like the Children's Advocacy Center or like Harry Chapin? Like you always hear the top 5. Give me the bottom 3 that need more attention.
Well, I'm going to give a shout out to my previous agency, Our Mother's Home. It's a group home for teen moms in the foster care system. It's a very small but mighty agency. And again, it's been there for over 30 years. We've been around. And it's the only home of its kind in this area. And it is literally a home for teenagers in the foster care system that are pregnant or have a child. And I mean, they need all the support that they can get. They get some federal funding, but it's just, it's never enough.
And they started a boutique recently that they're selling
Oh, that's new
items.
to me.
Yes, they
That's
started
great,
a
though.
boutique recently that they're selling items to. I think they said, I got to check with Angela, but she said for the teen moms to come and purchase, or if somebody purchases them, the money goes towards our homes.
There's a lot of room for growth there, I think, just thinking outside the box. But it was tough when I was the CEO there because you can never have more than 8 girls in the home. And it's like, well, how many clients do you serve a year? If you say 8, 10, it's
Right.
like, oh, okay. But I'm like, but do you know the difference that we made for those 8 girls?
Right.
Like
And their
that's-
babies,
Yeah, and their
too.
babies. They totally changed their life. Everything is free. We have a safe space for them. So now being at a bigger agency now, I can say, 10,000 people, it makes a bigger impact. But those are the ones that really are struggling to
Sure.
stay open and need the funds.
And they have a tremendous impact on our community.
Yep.
And that's what I don't want people to lose sight of. Like, this area is very giving. Don't just think about the big ones, but don't ignore you either, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah,
don't
no.
ignore you. But if you have it in you to give multiple agencies or multiple entities, give.
Definitely. And pick your passion,
For sure.
I mean, we'll take, like I said, we'll never turn down anybody's donation, but some people genuinely have a background, a passion. And so there's, like you said, there's a lot. There's over 3,500 nonprofits in Southwest Florida.
3,500.
Isn't that
Oh my
crazy?
goodness.
So how do you pick the
Wow.
one? So people will come to me a lot like, oh, you've been a nonprofit. I want to start my own nonprofit. The very
Yeah.
first thing I say is don't.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you there is another one doing it already or something similar. And you have to really think, are you starting this because you want that recognition and you want to be that person running it? Or do you want to help the people? Because why would you do all of that work to do something that another agency is struggling to do as well when you guys are kind of competing then?
Sure. And it's not a business where everyone's trying to make money. It's
Yeah.
like giving back to the community, right?
Right.
Like, and there's some amazing stories. Like you had mentioned Valerie's house. That's one of my personal favorites. But like that story is impactful. How do you overcome that? Like you
Yeah.
just can't. So I can't believe there's 3,500 nonprofit organizations in Lake or
know.
in Southwest Florida.
It's crazy. Let's see. You asked me for 3. My other one was going to be Valerie's house. I mean, it's a pretty large one here, but it's still relatively small in the grand scheme of things. And we partner a lot because a lot of our kiddos, unfortunately, if there's domestic violence in their house, or we see every child death case. So if there's if you guys heard about the shooting last night in Collier County, I won't get into too much. I don't know enough to talk about it. But had that been in Lee County, we would have absolutely been seeing all of the siblings. So we see any sibling in a child death, then we obviously will refer out to services. We'll provide therapy, but again, we're not the experts in grief. So we would recommend you to go to Valerie's house. And a lot of our kids overlap there because if there's violence so much in the house that there was a death, then we recommend you to go to Valerie's house.
And number 3.
Number 3, I got to say Pace because Pace is our next door neighbor. Again, I think they're a larger one, but they're still another small but mighty. They've got about 25 girls in their school. It's a school for at-risk girls, teen girls, and they provide 6 through 12. They do partner with the school district, so you can actually get your Lee County School District diploma from Pace if you want to be there. But it's for all the girls that just haven't been able to make it in a normal school setting. for whatever reason. Maybe they've been in trouble, maybe they have issues at home, they're just at risk of not graduating. They can go to PACE, and the classrooms are so small. I mean, they've got like 4 or 5 girls in some of their classrooms. Every girl is matched with a case manager who helps with their resources, therapeutic services. They're connected to their family. There's a store in there actually where they can buy supplies that they need for their house, or they're given. So we partner a lot. If we get a donation that is too much for us, we offer it to PACE and vice versa. Again, I mean, to me, it's like we're all entangled, right? All the clients that we're helping for the most part are the same types of clients. Like some of our girls literally will, or some of their girls will literally leave the school and walk over for their therapy sessions at our office. They just walk next door. So, I mean, let's all try to break that cycle.
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly what you said, breaking the cycle, and stop doing the same thing over and over and not getting any different results.
Got to do something different.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
Yep.
So you had mentioned reimagined, and I love the whole concept of that. So what's the future of the Children's Advocacy Center that you can release, right? Like if you're working on things that you don't want to, like what are some things that you're super excited about that are coming up in the next 1 to 3 years?
I mean, I think I kind of come in like a tornado and everywhere I go, which is good and bad. But I mean, if I'm hired, then they know that's what they're getting. When I was interviewing, I'm like, we need a rebrand, you need a new logo, a new mission, you need to update this building, you need to do this. And it's like, you either want that or you don't. But we are really trying to change the way you look at child abuse. It's like, let's stop making it focusing on all of the things that have already happened, but let's really work on prevention. So I'm hoping that we grow our prevention and our outreach departments, because those are the 2 smallest departments right now. And let's like let the whole world know that we want to, I don't want to say make child abuse like easy to talk about, but there's a lot of schools that won't let us go in and talk about human trafficking and online bullying and sexting and things like that. But the kids are talking about it.
Right.
And we always kind of say, like, someone's talking to your kids about it. So it better be educated people that know what they're doing and know how to talk about it appropriately. Or if not, then it's going to be misinformation or the wrong thing, and they're going to get the wrong idea. So I'm just hoping that we can really expand the education awareness.
More than likely in their life, they're going to need to know how to deal with bullying more than trigonometry.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Even as an adult,
Yes.
you come across people as an adult that are bullies. Now you know how to better articulate, like to go do something.
Yeah.
But as an adult, you're still running across them. So having that foundation as a child, and like you said, burying your head in the sand is not what to do nowadays. Like get the right information rather than misinformation.
Yep.
And it's just so readily available to kids.
And breaking down the concept of therapy as like, a lot of people feel like therapy is, we can't have it. We don't need any of that. We don't have the feelings. But we get so many kids that come back when they're 18 because their parents wouldn't let them get therapeutic services when they were a minor in our agency. And they're like, well, my mom didn't want me to get it, but I'm back now. Or hearing, the mom or the parents are letting the child get therapy, but almost inevitably it comes up that the mom or the dad was sexually abused when they were a kid. And it's like they didn't even realize it, but somehow those cycles are continuing. And if we're not letting everyone know, like, it's okay, therapy's okay. Everyone should have therapy, I feel like.
Oh,
And
yeah. Everyone needs therapy.
I'm like, I want to just go to a therapist for no reason and just sit there and
It just
figure
feels
out.
good after you leave. You feel like, I just got all that off my chest.
Right.
And, and everything's going to be okay. Like
Yeah. Imagine not having that trauma. Like we talked about, we had great backgrounds and, so sorry to disturb
we
you.
woke him.
But again, we probably don't have as much to talk about as other people, but imagine being a kiddo that had been abused and molested and they didn't have an outlet to talk about it. So
It had such a negative connotation, mental health and like therapy and going. And it was a sign of, like, I know
Weakness.
in law enforcement early on and in the military, it was a sign of weakness.
Oh yeah.
And in reality, it takes great strength to recognize that you need to leverage off of somebody and tap into what they have to offer. And
Absolutely.
like, I wish there was more of a presence in law enforcement for the respective agencies. But, like, kudos to you guys for
Thank you.
hats off to you, because it's a really hard job.
Thank you. One of the services that we offer that a lot of people don't realize, they think you have to be a kid that's come into our agency, our therapy department. They're trained, licensed mental health counselors, sexual abuse trauma therapists. They will, any person ever, doesn't matter who they are, how old they are, if they've been sexually abused when they were a kid, they can come in for free. We don't take insurance, anything, come in off the street and get therapy. So if they're listening and they are
That's
ready
huge.
to heal. Yeah, we were doing a tour a couple years ago, and we were talking about these services, and there was an 80-year-old woman coming in for a tour, and she heard that, and she actually stopped at the end and said, I was molested as a teenager.
Oh my
I
goodness.
think I should get therapy. And she went through our therapy program.
Wow.
And I was thinking about like my generation and probably yours is this the first generation that really started to go to therapy and make it normal.
Yep.
And like, I know I'm like the first one in my family that ever, talked to a therapist. Not that it was frowned upon. It just wasn't something that you talked about or
Yeah.
like was prevalent.
We don't need to, right? Everything's
Right.
fine.
Yeah, everything's
You
fine.
figure it
It's
out and you
good.
deal with it. Right?
Yeah, you
and
figure it
that's
out.
such the wrong mentality to have.
Yep.
So, well, welcome back, Doug. So, I want to thank you for popping on over here,
course.
kind of educating us on the
Thank
Children's
you,
Advocacy
guys.
Center. I am excited for next year's gala where I can bid on more
Me
more
too.
items.
Yeah. Just
Are you
save
gonna
up your
be
money.
Are you going to be a guest or a staff?
If it's here, I'll be both.
It's going to be here because I will tell you the number one thing that we got in our feedback, which I've never done an event where there was no negative feedback. And I'm not saying it was perfect. Nothing's perfect. You can always improve. But usually the first thing you hear is like, it was good, but you
Sure.
could have done this, but, or the food was, but 100% positive feedback. And I would say 90% of that is that venue was amazing. That's why we should be the only nonprofit that ever has anything here.
I mean,
But no,
you
I
have
mean,
an in.
Yes, I know.
You have a very
Like,
good
I
in
know
with
people
us.
here, but no, I mean, the feedback about the venue was just amazing. And so we're like, for sure, at least until if we outgrow it, we'll see where we go. But for sure, we want to be back.
If you outgrow us, that would be amazing.
Right? It's a
Right.
good problem to have.
It is
but
a
it's
good
not
problem
going to
to
happen
have.
next year. So I'm not even thinking about it.
We'll make
So
sure
it'll be-
Kim comes and she can bid on
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
And it'll be, winter time, so you'll be nice outside.
Yes. Well, thank you guys so much. Doug,
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into episode 9 with Alicia Shannon, the CEO of Children's Advocacy Center. If you need more information or you're interested in getting acclimated or more services that they have to offer, reach out to her and her staff. They'll be more than happy to make sure you're set up in the right direction.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really
Duck
appreciate
loves
it,
you.
Duck. Yes. He's like, he wants me back. I'll be back.
Yeah, he wants you to come back on the show.
He said, I can be a therapy dog
You're a
mom?
good boy. Yes, you can be. You're a good boy.
Oh, thank you guys so much.
Of course.
You're welcome.